We'll go counterclockwise. Get those confused. So it'll be Alexi, Michelle, and Christelle, and that's how we'll go as we introduce, and then yeah. So hello everybody, because we're live. Oh, we're live, you guys. Hello. Say hello as you guys come in. I'm so excited. I was just talking to these amazing ladies about the TV show and stuff and how the show is growing. So if anybody's wondering why I'm like super hyped, that's why. But welcome to another roundtable. I'm also really excited that as these tables continue to progress, we continue to have really amazing deep dive conversations into topics I feel help us move forward and help us really start asking ourselves the questions we need to be asking ourselves in life. So, you guys, without further ado, I'm going to drop into my intro. As you guys come in, say hey, let us know how you're doing, where you coming from, YouTube, Facebook. Where are you at in the world today? Because I know that we've been having some people come in from Africa and all over the world. It's really interesting to see who pops in and where they're at. So tell us where you're at, how you're doing. And as always, please, please, please feel free to join in on this conversation. I encourage and ask that you comment and recognize that you have she'll be back. You have a seat at this table as well. So say hey, interact. And last thing I'll ask you guys, please share these conversations, and so that I can continue bringing you amazing people. There we go. So, all right, you guys, without further ado, hello and welcome to the TUF Woman Roundtable, you guys. This is the table where I invite some amazing people to pull a seat up and create conversation. At TUF Woman, I believe that all people have the power within themselves to live life authentically. Hey, Margot, free from fear, confident in who they are, and empowered to go out and create a life that sets their soul on fire. I also believe that by one person showing up in their power, we give other people the same permission to show up in their own power. So, oh God, you guys, sorry. It is through this joint rising that we move ourselves and humanity forward, you guys. So pull up a seat, tune in, and join us as we create epic conversations that move and remind everyone just how truly powerful they are within. And hello, Margot. Welcome to the conversation. So you guys, tonight we're talking about how your mess is your message. And it's funny that we're talking about how your mess is your message, because y'all just saw me like stumble through my intro because my little paper here kept falling down. So things happen, you guys, and I want to encourage you and remind you that, no matter what, get back up and keep going. So hello and welcome, everybody. I'm going to let my amazing guests introduce themselves, and we're going to really dive into this message tonight. So, we're a little bit backwards, but Christelle, if you will introduce yourself, tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Hi, thank you so much, Ashley, for having me on the show. My name is Crystal Viga. I'm a transformational coach. I'm originally from Cameroon. That's why you have this beautiful accent. And I live in Los Angeles. So basically, what I do is I work with female coaches to help them reach their income goals in record time through alignment. My thing is really alignment. And during my story about turning my mess into my message, I will deep dive more into alignment. So for now, I'll just stick to that. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you are welcome. I'm really pumped. Y'all already know. Alexi, if you will tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Okay, my name is Alexi Bracy. I'm just outside Toronto, and I am a Thrive as You Age coach. And by that I mean I help women lay a foundation of a strong brain so they can thrive as they age, blowing out their 80, 90 birthday candles with champagne and family and friends and beyond, because dementia affects women 3 times more than men, and it can be stopped and or prevented. So after a horrific experience at a nursing home, I committed to really educating people that dementia is preventable and stoppable. And given the dynamics, it's an epidemic worldwide, and they're saying 50% of the world's population will die of neurological disorders. So it's really paramount for everybody to know what to do and to share with family and friends.
I love that. And, I think when we talked to, what resonated with me is that my grandmother, she's suffering from dementia, and it's like wondering, could there have been anything to prevent it? So I am really, interested to hear your story behind, what got you to this place, because that's such a beautiful thing. And I don't think that's a lot that's, highly talked about. I think they've really only begun understanding anything in regards to, neurobiology and, all the brain and all that. So Very fascinating stuff. So, Michelle, if you will tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Michelle Montero. I am a virtual assistant and web designer for business and mindset coaches, and I help them tackle the behind the scenes tasks so they can live a fulfilling, productive, and stress free lifestyle while scaling a thriving online business.
Love it. Love it. All right, you guys. So before we drop into this, if any of you ladies want to share this, I'm going to go ahead and share it and start a watch party. So for anybody catches up on that, I will go ahead and make sure to watch for comments on this. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. Comments on that as well. So you guys, what I really want to talk about and get started is the most important part. I think that when we're talking about your mess is your message, is understanding that what we have gone through in life is what creates our message. I think what a lot of people that I've seen struggle with is like, what is my message? What am I here to really talk to people about? And what is the movement or legacy that I'm wanting to leave behind? Because for me, when I talk about my mess, that converts into my message, it's always about like, what did I learn from it? And what did it make me want to do to make sure that I leave a better space behind than what I left? You know what I mean? Because for me, it's like, what did I go through that I didn't want to go through anymore? And it really is such an empowering space to come from. So I'm going to go, I'm going to start with Christelle first. If you will tell us a little bit about your story and how that really, snowballed into becoming your message. And
Okay, my mess is my story in the coaching industry as a life coach or transformational coach right now. When I started my business, I was kind of all over the place. I wasn't being me, and I didn't even know it was okay to be me. So when I say my mess today is my message, is really just helping people to be okay, to be who they are. And in business especially, it's difficult because there are so many options out there, so many people screaming and yelling at you what you should do, how you should do it in order for you to get where you want to go. But for me, it was painful because I'm a free spirit. I've always wanted to do my own thing how I want it. So jumping into entrepreneurship was a tough one for me because I wanted, of course, as everyone else, to succeed, but I didn't know I could do it my way. It was really painful for me to try to copy, not really copy. I was paying coaches to show me the way, right? Try to do it the way they were doing it for themselves, trying to do the exact same thing because the message was clear. I do it, I do it, and thousands of people are doing it the way I show it, and they have getting this result. You have to do the exact same way. And it was painful for me because the free person I am couldn't fit into that box of doing it in a certain way because that's what you should do in order to get where you want to go. It was a struggle. I tried. I really tried. And I think it's a place where a lot of people find themselves sometimes. And what was happening was that I wasn't getting the result, not because of the programs or the coaches. They were amazing. It was just not the right containers for me to be me. I was copying a system. I was applying strategies that were not for me. And I didn't know that. And I wasn't in my power enough to realize that, hey, even though it's great, is it great for me? Even though it works, does it work for me? And if it doesn't work for me, it doesn't mean that I'm not good enough. It doesn't mean that I'm not doing the right thing. It doesn't mean that I'm not trying hard enough. It doesn't mean that I'm not disciplined enough, consistent, all the things that make you feel bad and hate yourself the more you try to do them and you're not able to, not because you're lazy or just because it's not for you. Finding my own rhythm, being okay to be different, being okay to do it my way, and believe that it's my way, it's good enough for me. Whatever I decide to do, be in my power enough to be okay to be the only one to do it that way. Be okay for people to don't understand that I'm doing it that way. Be okay for people to tell me you're new, this is how you do it with the first year in your business. Be okay to say, you did it that way, great, it worked for you, but I'm going to do it my way. So that was really my struggle, being able to be in my power enough to understand that I am good enough. What I want matters. The way I want to do it is important, and not let people keep telling me that you can't do it your way. This is the way. There is no one way. There is no right or wrong way. You just have to find your way. What works for you, what feels good to you, because you have to enjoy the journey. Entrepreneurship is a lifetime journey. It's now I'm enjoying it. And that's the message I'm sharing now with people, is that your way is good enough. You are good enough right now. There is no reason for you to try to become someone else, try to do it a certain way in order to deserve what you want. You are good enough right now, and just own it.
I love it. Well, and before we go to Alexi, I think a lot of women especially struggle with that, and we have a lot of identity issues that come out around that, because we really tag a lot of our worth to these outer circumstances, and outer labels and stuff. So definitely took some notes. I really want to come back to that in this, because I think all of you ladies will have a lot to contribute. But Alexi, if you'll tell us a little bit about your mess becoming your messaging, because you are one of the first people I've ever met that really but tackles dementia and neurobiology, and really understanding how we can be preventative instead of waiting till we get to the point, where it's come and taken over us.
Well, it first started 20 years ago, actually. I reframe and I say now, cancer saved my life 20 years ago. And by that, I mean, it shifted my career direction, obviously, from what I was doing to, I was a raw food or a traditional chef at the time. So I put on the hat of a plant-based chef, and I studied everything I could. This 20 years ago, the availability of library of the internet isn't what it is today. So I spent hours at libraries and bookstores, and within 3 months, I radically changed my dietary habits, cleaned up my environment, my toiletries, cleaning products, and did some emotional work. And without drug surgery and medical intervention, I was cancer-free a year later. So that started my journey, and I've spent the last 20 and plus years learning all I can about health, healing, natural modalities, non-invasive, the latest. And I've helped people along the way who thought they had a death sentence, of inspired people, saved lives. I've taught. And so then as I was getting older, I started becoming more interested in brain health. And given that dementia is such a sort of hot topic today, a visit to a nursing home really devastated me when I saw firsthand how these women were just sitting like vegetables, having to be fed, no social interaction, no eye contact. And it just broke my heart, because some of these women were even younger than me. And I thought, okay, I'm just shifting gears a little bit, and I'm going to focus on dementia, because it is absolutely horrific. If you've never experienced it, or you've never had a family member or been to a nursing home, it is absolutely, it's just gut-wrenching. People, the reason residents in nursing homes where the residents are quite ill, the reason their doors are locked so they can't get out is because they don't feel like it's home. And so they want to get out to go back home. And, some of them that are more advanced, they just sit there, like just in vegetative state. It's absolutely heartbreaking. There's a great movie, Alive Inside, where it shows about dementia and how music is not impacted in your brain when you have dementia. So they did studies where they would play on an iPod the music from the era that person was growing up, and these people came alive. Just totally came alive. Some of them began dancing, depending on the various stages. So they've shown that there are things you can do to minimize, to stop it, to prevent it. And it's just, it always comes down to lifestyle habits. Just like my cancer was a result of poor lifestyle choices, so dementia is, again, lifestyle choices that are cumulative over the years. So it doesn't just happen when you're 70 or 60. It starts in your 20s and 30s based on the habits that you accumulate over time. It's just like when you put a teaspoon of water or say you put a teaspoon of poison in a glass, and you drink it, it's not going to really affect you. But when you keep on adding more and more teaspoons where it becomes a cup, that's when full-fledged dementia or cancer or whatever takes form. So, they say that at the end of every rainbow, or at the end of every cloud, there's a rainbow. So that's why I say cancer saved my life, because had I not known that I could cure myself, I wouldn't have been interested in dementia. And so, it just it's just a flow that, another thing opened up and something else opened up. But this is just like, so, I mean, I still remember it. It just so broke my heart. And I just want people to know that there's something you can do. You don't have to just assume that when you get older, you're going to have dementia, because that is not true at all. So whatever career goals we have or successes we want to achieve, make sure you have a healthy brain.
I love that. And I got a couple notes on that, but it's amazing how what we think is a disturbance in our life and what we consider a disruptor is really what shifts us, right? Like for Christella, you were just talking about how what disrupted you was recognizing that you didn't have to do that and you had been doing someone else's way for so long, and you're like, you know what? I have to find out what works for me. So I'm really excited to keep diving into this. But Michelle, if you will tell us now about how your mess became your message, because again, I got the privilege of reading some of your posts today, so I was like really impressed with what I read and really impressed at the level of vulnerability that came through on that post. So yeah, if you will tell us a little bit about that.
Thank you. So I feel like a lot of that has to do with, has a lot to do with like mindset, because personally, back before I even started my entrepreneurial journey, I was extremely depressed and negative. And I guess you could say I was like that friend that people would really avoid because I was always complaining and I was just like really draining everybody. Always. I never had anything good to say about myself or my life or the people around me. And I was literally always going through something, and it would be like insane. You'd think that I was like in a movie or something, because the craziest things would just happen to me. And I remember this book was introduced to me, The Secret, and then I later learned that The Secret is also kind of incorporating the law of polarity. So with a lot of like mindset work and talking to different coaches, I realized that I was the reason why all of these horrible things were happening to me. I mean, I went through financial hardship in 2019, and I survived living in a car for a couple of months with my cats and my fiance. And I realized that it was literally just me putting myself in these very low vibration thought patterns and around these low vibration people who really didn't have the same values or goals that I have right now. So it really just got to a point where I was just like, all right, scrap all of that other stuff, because I don't want all of this bad stuff happening to me all the time. And I started planting those seeds. I started working on my mindset, money blocks, because a lot of like that financial hardship I realized was because of my family. I grew up in a Hispanic household. So a lot of the times, if we couldn't afford something, it would be those words, I can't buy it. You know what I mean? So recently I learned that that's basically planting the seed and telling yourself you're going to be poor. So I just really learned to pick and choose and reprogram myself so that I could live the life that I really want, which is, a wealthy life full of abundance and health and prosperity. So that's basically my message, is if you are one of those people that feel like you're always having these horrible things happening to you, like you don't have a good day and you feel like everything is just happening to you, not with you, then maybe do some reflection and see if there are certain areas in your mind where you're just limiting yourself, because a lot of times you really are your creator. I mean, we're rewriting our story every single day with every single choice that we make. Like right now, I have the ability of staying in New Jersey or leaving the state because my lease is going to end soon, and nothing has me tied down. And it's the best feeling in the world, because I'm my own boss right now. So I can really choose where I want to go. And everybody has the power to do the same thing. You just really have to think about what it is that you want in your life and just start taking the steps to really get it.
And I have to say, first and foremost, thank you, ladies, for all coming on here. I want to highlight how everybody's story and everybody's message is so different, yet at the same time, there's that through line of having, again, that major disruptor in life, and realizing, that there was more to it than the messaging that you had been brought up on, right? It didn't have to be, you don't have to have a death sentence, we don't have to not be within our power and walking that. So I always love being able to share everybody's different stories, because it's such a testament to how, even though we all go through different things and have different experiences, it really becomes such a defining part of what we end up doing with our life and with our story. So, what I want to kick off into first, that I picked up between all of you guys, is that the power of internalized messaging. And I would love
Mhm.
anybody to jump in. But what I want to discuss is the internalized messaging that we grow up with, and the internalized messaging that we come across when we're in business. Because Christelle, you highlighted on it and talked about when you came into like the coaching industry, it was the messaging, that you had to do things a certain way, you had to show up a certain way, and you had to do this to be successful. And I think that that's something we struggle with. As well as Alexi, you said that you were talking about, we have this messaging that I've always heard that dementia is genetic. Like if somebody in your family has dementia, you're going to have it. And my grandmother has dementia, and that freaks me out. I'm like sitting here going like, man, am I going to hit like 60 and not be able to remember people like that? That truly freaks me out. And I'm only 31, but I'm sitting here going, oh my God, because I had to go see my grandmother right as she started aging into dementia. And for anybody who is out there who has a family member who goes through that, my heart goes out to you, because it's a very it's a very hard situation to walk into, someone that you've known your entire life and they don't even know who you are.
Mhm.
It took my grandmother 5 minutes to recognize me, and I was like her favorite grandchild. And I say that because my sisters might watch this and go, "Excuse you, you were what?" But so there's that. And then Michelle, it's the same thing as well. It's internalizing that message of, we can't afford this. So that means that you struggle with your own financial issues as you get older. So I would love your ladies' perspective on how you internalize your messaging, and how that really affected your journey as you grew up. You came into where you're at now. And everybody can highlight on it from their perspective if they like to, and how that resonates within them.
Well, I just like to address or comment on what Michelle said about mindset. I mean, mindset, it's just so powerful, and it's a belief system, things that we have shared, like you said, the family upbringing, we didn't have it, or maybe you've experienced some kind of trauma, so you don't feel you deserve it, or you're not worthy, or whatever. There is a well-respected research company called Kaiser Permanente. They did a study on 17,000 college students 20 years ago. 10 questions: traumas you experienced between the ages of 2 and 18. Sexual abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse. You got kicked out. Your father was a drunk. He beat your mother up. And we all have experienced some kind of trauma to some degree. It's just everybody's, it depends on the severity. And if you score 2 or more yeses out of a possible 10 questions, you have an 80% chance of developing cancer, arteriosclerosis, heart disease after the age of 50. So again, it comes back to mindset, getting help, getting support to overcome those emotional issues. And so when I was diagnosed with my cancer, I just knew when I put the phone down, when the pathologist called me and told me, I knew in my heart of hearts that I was going to beat it. I had no idea how, but I knew I was going to beat it. So again, it was my mindset, like right from day one.
Mm.
And I'd like to phrase that question to you ladies as well. How do you feel that internalized messaging has really played out in your life and the way you've come in now? Because I feel, again, that we all have these different experiences, but there's that through line that at some point we internalized some messaging, and it really dictated how we continue to show up in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
So, Chriselle, I'm going to ask you to go first.
Okay, so basically for me, the journey was really to just own that I am who I am. It's a struggle because we live in a world where there are norms, there are, rules, and all of them, we need them to live together. So nothing is wrong about those, but there is not enough space for people to be who they are. And we grow up around people telling us how we should sit down, how we should talk, especially for women. The conditioning is so strong to just to talk about mindset, we are so conditioned that our mindset is based on those conditioning. You can't cry even if when you are in pain, you want to cry as a child. They are telling you don't cry, stop crying. You deserved it. Why didn't you listen when they asked you to stop playing? So we grow up lost, not remembering who we are, not knowing who we are, with all those rules in our head. Don't do this. A girl doesn't sit this way, doesn't talk this way, doesn't. So we have all those rules that we grew up trying to fit in. So we forgot who we were in the first place. We don't know anymore. And we grow up, we are in a community, again, society, where people decide what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is not, what is the right way to do things, the wrong way to do things. Again, we have no room to discover what is our way. So as I was mentioning in the first part, is that I was born free in my mind. I knew I couldn't fit. I wanted to do my own thing all the time, but it doesn't work in the world we are living in. It can't. People will tell you it's not possible. I was the student that will skip classes, not to go do something wrong, just to go home, just because I was tired to be there. But I will make sure that my grades don't show that, so my parents will not find out that I'm skipping school. But I was just skipping school because I was not feeling good being there Monday to Friday from a certain time to a certain time. There is nothing wrong with school. I was just not the person that would do the same thing over and over again, sit down there at the same spot doing the same thing for a week, for 3 months, for 9. It was not for me. But do you think I could go to my parents and tell them, I don't like being in school every day. Can I just go to school when I feel like going? Can I just stay there as long as I want? And if I don't want to, can I go home? They would have been like, what is wrong with you? Right? So this is what happens. Then that was my struggle. I was not the person that would feel in any given system, not because I wanted to, maybe I just wanted to just do my own thing when I wanted to. But the world we live in is not okay. So that was painful for me to come to a place of being like, okay, guys, as long as I'm not doing something illegal, as long as I'm not hurting anybody, can I just be me?
Can I just live my life?
Can I just be me? Can I just do it my way? If my way doesn't hurt you, if my way is not illegal, can I just do it my way? Why is it a problem? Right? So I know you're cracking up, but it was a real struggle for me. I was always trying to be like, what are people going to say? What are they going to think about me? I mean, I cannot possibly be the only one that wants to do it this way. So let me just keep it down and do it like everyone else. I mean, because every time I will try to don't not fit in that box, what is wrong with you? What are you looking for? What do you want? Especially when I wanted to quit my job last year, I was the craziest person in the room. What are you looking for? What do you want? You have a great job. You mean you're a manager. I mean, what are you looking for? And I'm sure people were probably in my back saying, I think she lost it because, but again, that's a journey that was my personal internal struggle. Is it okay to be me in a world where it's not okay to just do your own thing? They have so many rules that you have to figure out a way to fit in, because if not, there is something wrong with you. You have to deal with it. You have to become better. You have to improve. You have to, be a certain way in order for people to say, yes, now you are good enough. Now you deserve to be, have this kind of success in your business. Now you deserve this kind of relationship. Now you deserve this kind of money. Now you deserve this because you have proven that. And that's why people, when they share their success story, they always feel like they have to prove that they have deserved it by struggling and bleeding and sweating. Because it's not okay for the world to not have that story of pain. You have to earn it. You are not good enough if you just wake up. No, you have to earn it. You are not good enough the way you are. Become someone else. Try hard enough, and then now you're good.
Exactly. Well, and
So,
oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was gonna say, sorry about that. No, and I totally agree with that. I feel like I wrote down here, so we're teaching other people to duplicate and not self-identify. So, Michelle, I'd love to get your take on it as well. Oh, sorry. I just lost my sorry, I lost my question. Oh, my bad. So, so on to that, actually, how teaching other people to duplicate and, internalize our messaging, y'all. Excuse me. So I would love to know how this worked as well in your life, internalizing that messaging that you got as a child. And y'all, sorry, I had a brain fart. It happens. I'm like, but yeah, I'd love to know how that worked in your life because, again, and Christelle, you touched on something that I thought was important. When we go against the grain, especially growing up, when we talk about going against the grain and going against what we're told, there's really that pushback. And I think as women too, especially, that's ingrained in us from a very young age that we have to show up in this space. And that's actually, Michelle, after that, I'd love to dive into that as well. And before we go into the last piece of this, but Michelle, I'd love your thoughts on how that worked in your life, the messaging being internalized as you came about and got older.
For sure. So I'm actually the older sister. I have a younger brother who's now about to be 18. So growing up, it was a lot of me just reminding him like, no, we can't afford that and stuff like that. So I feel like I started planting those seeds to him just because that's how I was raised. And eventually, like as a teen, when I was in high school, I think it was my senior year in high school, I started working full time while holding phenomenal grades. And I feel like a lot of that just had to do with the way that my parents raised me, and their mindset was always, you have to work hard, and you have to go to school, you have to go to college. I mean, honestly, I didn't even go to college, and they weren't really happy about it at first, going against the grain sort of thing. But I mean, I'm here now, and they see that even though I did it my way, like Christelle was talking about, even though I did it my way, I'm still going somewhere. I'm still succeeding, even though in their eyes, it wasn't the path that I was supposed to take. You know what I mean? So a lot of it had to do with me kind of questioning myself and wondering, like, am I even doing this right? Like kind of like seeking that validation and not really knowing. And probably even like just judging myself when I would spend money on myself. Because I would try to kind of like please myself and, get my nails done when I was in high school every couple of weeks. And I would still have that little voice in the back of my head, like, you probably shouldn't have spent that money. And sometimes I still have that voice in my head, but then I have my other coach's voice in my head telling me like, no, spend the money and be happy about it because it's going to come back. You know what I mean? So I try not to feel worried about like bills and sort of stuff like that, because if I start feeling like scared about the bills and scared about, putting money out there, then I'm not going to be able to get that money back to me. And I've like learned that money revolves, So I feel like that's kind of like the path that it kind of took me towards, a lot of just like replanting those seeds in my brother and then trying my best to be like extremely hardworking so I could actually earn my money,
Well, and I guess that leads me to the next topic. And so when we dive into this, we talk about our mindset really duplicating these things. So one thing that I picked up, like Alexi, you especially touched on this, was your mindset really being the mindset, I'm not going to be this victim. I'm not going to have the cancer. I'm going to win. So I'd really love for you to touch, and all of you ladies, I'd love for you to touch on what it was like understanding that your mindset was really, again, just touching deeper into that, duplicating that, because one of the things that I feel is really important about when we come to the space of being able to turn our mess into our message, it's understanding that we have conquered that mindset that would have potentially kept us in that messier part of our life. And I don't say that in a bad way, but again, touching back to what you said, Alexi, is just understanding that you didn't have to go that route. Christelle, it's like knowing that the power was really all within you and you didn't have to take that route. So Alexi, I'd love your thoughts on what it on our mindset, just duplicating what comes out into our life. So understanding that the moment you got cancer, you either could have continued to have cancer and potentially died, or you decided that day, like, no, that's it, I'm not having any more.
Well, I think there's a common thread with all of us. We sort of march to our own drummer, and so I was going to do it my way, not what mainstream doctors were going to tell me. And it sort of brought to mind this famous song by Frank Sinatra. I don't know if you know who Frank Sinatra was. I did it my way. He made the song famous. You know, when you decide you're going to do it your way, contrary to, um, you know, what mainstream media says, what mainstream doctors say, contrary to what your parents tell you to do or not do. I was the same thing when I was a little girl. I sort of marched to my own drummer. My mother was always scolding me to do, you know, don't do it this way, do it this way. But, you know, we're not cookie cutter according to what our parents want us to do. We're all individuals. And if we do something against the norm, so be it. And if it doesn't work, well, then you try again. But, you know, you know, the saying is, if you think you can, you're right. And if you think you can't, you're also right.
Mm.
Mhm.
So
You
you've
know?
touched on something, I would say you've touched on something really powerful there. And that is the messaging we receive, especially as women. And if you ladies don't mind, I'd love to touch on that a moment because I think that's a very powerful topic and my audience would really love that. But I would love to know what it was really like to choose that path of marching to your own drum, and how did that free you from the messaging you got about what it was like to really, you know, what a real woman was like, you know, because I know as little girls we're told to be quiet and, you know, keep our mouth shut and not show up. And so I think it's really important to understand and explain about the power that comes from marching to your own drum and what that looks like. So Michelle, I'd love to start with you. You know, you kind of, but you know, what was it like to just, you know, be free and be able to march to the beat of your own drum and bring that into your life?
It was electrifying. I feel like when you're able to kind of align with yourself and know that you're doing things and living life on your own terms, you know, not worried about what anybody else has to say, not worried about whether they, you know, care that you failed or care that you didn't. You know what I mean? Like it just feels like you're flying because you don't have to worry about anymore that you're going to look bad for your parents or that, you know, you're going to fail, because you know that you're going to get back up and that you're going to keep going. I mean, a lot of it right now is just me trusting in the universe, because I feel like I've just become in tuned with the universe and I can trust it now because it's gotten me this far, you know, with my intuition and like, okay, well, let me just try it this way because something's calling me to try it this way, even though a lot of people are like, girl, you're crazy, like you shouldn't even do that. And a good point about that was when I was about to become homeless last year, I actually ended up going to live on a farm for a couple of weeks just so I could avoid being homeless. And people thought I was crazy that I took this like long road trip with all of my cats to a farm in Illinois. And I mean, I had shelter and food for like 3 weeks, so I made it, you know. And I mean, I feel like nobody else, if they weren't aligned, they wouldn't have taken that risk and they wouldn't have felt like that freedom and that, like, I don't know, it's just different.
Mm.
It's not the same anymore.
Yeah, I was to say I at one point in my, especially like in the early days of this business, and actually when I started the show, I was living on people's couches and people thought I was nuts. And the one question I'm going to ask here in a minute is about the power of vulnerability and when you know, how do we determining when something's too messy? Because I had a friend who came to me and she was actually the inspiration for this, and she was talking about going through something very messy that she went through. And when she talked about it in a way to heal herself, like really bring that message out and use it, you know, she was again met with that backlash of like, oh, you shouldn't talk about that, you know, maybe you didn't go through that, and that validation, that lack of validation, people telling her like, you know what, you don't need to do that. And so it really spurred me on and going, you know, when is like you know, when, who are we to determine what is too messy, you know? So the next question I have to ask you ladies, and I'm going to start with you, Christelle, is like, what happens when we show up in our vulnerability? You know, what happens when we're able to go, you know what, this is you know, this situation that I've been through, it doesn't define who I am, and I can step into that power. What is it like to show up in that space of vulnerability within your business now and who you are as a person? How has that worked in your life?
I love something Michelle said earlier. She said, life happens with you. And I love that because it was actually the first time I heard that and created something in my mind, because people usually say life doesn't happen to you, but it happens for you. But
Mm-hmm.
when she said it happens with you, I loved it because I love being in power. And I think that's an empowering statement to know that you are part of it. Because even if they say life happens for you, you really not doing anything about it. You are just watching things happen. But knowing that it happens with you is you being in power. Because if you know it happens with you, that means you have your say. You can decide. And that's what it means for me to be in that place of vulnerability where people don't understand you, when what you do doesn't make sense. Just know that you get to decide. It's your life. You have the power to decide, even if it doesn't make sense for anybody. Just remember that I get to do what I want. I get to decide. I have that power. Maybe I'm wrong, but at least knowing that I can decide to make the wrong choice is being in my power. Knowing that I can decide to take a way that will not probably lead me to the final destination, as Alexi was saying, and then adjust or change. At least I have the power to make that decision, not be guided by anyone else, but by my intuition, by being pulled to do something, knowing that when my heart is calling me to do something, when my soul is calling me to do something, I have the power to follow that. That for me is life changing. That for me is freedom, because this is just the place where everybody should live, knowing that I don't have to wait for permission to be who I want to be, to do what I want to do, to to experience what I want to experience. I have the power. Ultimately, I can ask for people's advice, but at the end of the day, I have the power to decide. I get to choose, and that for me is freedom.
Amen. I feel like vulnerability is really one of the truest steps to freedom. And so I would go in next and say, when we're looking at the messaging that's coming out, especially again talking on us as women, the messaging that we receive and messaging we receive in the business world, do you ladies feel that we're teaching people to duplicate these thought patterns, or are we really helping people to self-identify? Because the thing that I felt I really picked up, especially from Christelle, was she was taught again to just duplicate and not really step into who she was. When we're trying to do other people's way of thinking, which from what I've gathered from all of you ladies, you guys are like, again, as Michelle said, scrap that. I'm not going to do it that way. We learn to start self-identifying, but I think as we go through this life, we aren't taught to self-identify. And do you feel like there were points in your life where people were just telling you to duplicate? Lexi, I'd love to get your thoughts on it, especially when you were going through your journey with cancer, were people just telling you to do these things instead of, because I know you went through alternative therapies and stuff. And I've read a lot on how there's not a lot of recommendation up until most recently of holistic lifestyles in regards to cancer, even though it's widely supported that those alternative therapies are incredibly effective for it. So when you were going through it, you talked about the feedback, the lashback. Do you feel like people are being taught to duplicate or self-identify?
I think people just want to fit in. Not everybody wants to march to their own drummer. And, and then, maybe it comes a point in your life where you think enough is enough. I'm going to do it my way. And I don't want to hurt, any decision I make in my life. I don't want to hurt anybody or upset anybody, but I want to do something that feeds my soul. And so if it goes against the norm, that's so be it. I want to do something that feeds my soul.
So this, yeah, and I want to get all of your input on this. This is my favorite parts. How do you think that we as women can start showing up in the space to start utilizing our own mess and what we've gone through and converting it into our message? How can we start walking in that space of really getting to walk into who we are and what we're here to do? Because ultimately, when I talk about like your mess being your message, it's from the perspective of, had we not gone through what we had gone through collectively, and I know I'm realizing now that I didn't touch a whole lot on mine, but had we not gone through what we had gone through, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing now. And that to me is, Alexi, I think you talked about what brings us all together is, again, we've all gone through something that was so life-changing that it walked us right into what we were doing. So back to my friend who inspired the show, had she not gone through what she had gone through, and she went through some hell, she would not be where she's at in life now, Alexi. If you had not gone through cancer, cancer saved your life. You would not have walked into discovering the possibilities of helping someone heal from dementia or be preventative. You know, Christelle, had you not gone through that journey, you probably wouldn't be sitting here potentially talking to me, you know, being incredibly passionate about your message. And Michelle, the same thing for you, you know, like homelessness, it does suck. And I was very fortunate that I didn't have to sleep in a car, but I did for like a couple nights, and that sucks. And I, you know, like props to you for being able to do that and being able to talk about it. That's the most important thing. You can come from that space and tell people, like, you know, I went through this, but it doesn't define who I am now, and I have the power to alter that. So I would really love each of your ladies' thoughts on ways that women can keep them, you know, can really help start turning around and making their mess into their message, and really go from that I don't say victim, but, you know, from that mentality to that victorious mentality, and realizing that they essentially don't, that doesn't have to be it. This doesn't have to be the end of it. So, Michelle, I'll let you start, and then we'll go Alexi and Christelle. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how women can show up in this space.
So recently I've been listening to a lot of Paige Cole, and you just reminded me of one of her podcasts that I was listening to the other day. And basically it was saying that everything that happens is for a reason. So obviously we've heard that before, right? But right now what I've been doing is anytime that something that I don't necessarily like happens to me, I try to kind of pinpoint what it is that it's trying to show me. What is it that I don't want in my life? So then instead of kind of like feeling like crap over it and moping and self-pity all over it, I kind of switch it and I say to myself and to the universe, thank you for showing me something that no longer serves me, or something along those lines. So it's kind of like taking away like the negativity and knowing that something good is going to come from it in the future. So like for me with the whole homelessness, I knew that something bigger was going to happen. I knew that the whole thing was for a bigger purpose. I didn't know what it was. But I mean, here I am talking to, I don't know how many people out there. Maybe there's people out there who feel like they're going to become homeless one day and they don't know what to do. And I mean, I'm like a live testimonial saying like, you can go out there and change it today just by starting to network and figuring out what you want in your life. You just have to start planting those seeds if you really want it. So that's basically it.
I love that. That might one of you really spurred me on that. One of my favorite questions is always to ask, like, what am I receiving from this? What is the thing that I'm going to be learning from it, you know, and really framing in how I view what it is that I'm going through. So, Alexi, I love your thoughts on how women can show up in this space to start facilitating that change and that transformation for themselves.
Well, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So, you know, just because it may seem like something that's negative or bad, reframe it, because there's a lesson, just like Michelle said, there's a lesson there to be learned. Maybe do something a little differently, maybe reach out. You know, people, we're not meant to be solopreneurs per se. Reach out to a friend, you know, start a movement, start a support group, you know, share your information through podcasts or through blogs or whatever, you know. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with getting another opinion, but it basically comes down to you, and don't let anybody's opinion sway you. You know, just go within. Does it feel good? And, you know, there's only two forces in on our planet today. It's either ego or love or fear. So don't stay in a place of fear, stay in a place of love, and you'll always come up with some kind of answer.
Amen. Christelle, if you would love input as well.
Yeah, so what I can just say in regards to women, to just encourage them to share their own story, is that you just have to love yourself. Just like Alexi said, when you love yourself enough, you are not scared for people to not love you. The reason why people hide or are not open about what's going on is because they are afraid to be rejected, they're afraid to be judged, and they worry about what people are going to say or think about them. But the truth is, if you accept and love yourself, you will not worry about if other people love and accept you. So my advice is just to go back within and just love yourself, because you are good enough and you are worthy of everything. Nobody can love you more than you do. And hiding, whatever is happening in your life is just a sign that you don't accept yourself. That's why you're afraid that people don't accept you. Whatever is going on, it's okay. You get to decide. Remember, you have the power to decide when to shift that, when to change that, when to experience something different, how you want to come out from the situation. Do you want to stay there? Will you give away your power to that situation for it to determine the rest of your life? Or you are going to take back the power and decide what's going to happen after that? And from that place, you will not be afraid about what people think or what people will say, because you will accept yourself and know that you have that power. And if people reject you when you share that, people don't love you anymore, it's okay. You love yourself enough to handle it. It's okay.
I had that exact conversation with someone today, and I said, listen, you hopefully get to the point in your life where you walk through life understanding that you define yourself and that things outside of you don't define you. I had that realization at the gym today. I weighed myself and was like, you know what? It's all right. You know what? That's good. I'm all right with that. And I think that's a really important thing, because one part of my mess was really struggling for a very long time with the eating disorder and understanding the mentality behind that, and recognizing, when we went through COVID, you're talking about someone who had an addiction to going to the gym and like really just pushing myself and punishing myself a lot. And I backed off from that. And I had to have a lot of old programming and messaging that came up for me that was really dictating over my mindset. I had a lot of stuff going on. So it's always really important to share those, because it helps us to recognize that we can, again, define ourselves. We're not defined by these things that happen to us, because as Michelle said, they don't happen to us, they happen for us. Life is happening for us, whether we understand it or not. And I always think these panels are a lovely way to remind people, life is always happening for us. I mean, we all walk through different pieces of life. And, we all see how things weave together. So the last question I have, second to last question I have for you ladies is, what is the greatest thing that you have learned through all this, and your mess becoming your message, showing up in that space of vulnerability and really challenging the status quo that we are given? What is the greatest thing that you have learned from this journey? And I will let any of you ladies start.
What I have learned is that I am good enough. Yeah, there are things you hear over and over again and you don't feel it. But I feel that and I remind myself that every day I am good enough. I don't have to become someone else. I don't have to be different. I don't have to do or be anyone to deserve what I want. I am good enough right now, today, to have everything that I want. And being in that space stops me from judging myself, beating myself up when things don't go the way I expect or plan, or feeling bad if people don't get it or try to tell me that there is something wrong with me, or make me feel like there's something wrong with me, because I know that I'm good enough. Those words or comments or reactions or attitude don't affect me, because I keep reminding myself, Crystal, you are good enough.
Amen. So, Alexi, I love your thoughts on what is the greatest thing that you've learned in this journey.
If you really have that conviction that you can do something, you can do it. And so, just like I knew I was gonna beat cancer, I didn't know how, but I knew I was going to do it. And there's been sort of other instances where, I was gonna get that I don't know, opportunity or that dream home, or that like when you really believe that you can, and if you believe you can't, you're also right. And I really focus on doing things that feed my soul, and if it's helping somebody, that is great. If it's sharing with somebody, that's even better. So and you just march to your own drummer, and like Christelle said, I am good enough. And we just have to remind ourselves, I am good enough. Louise Hay has a great exercise. Go on in front of the mirror every single day and say to yourself in the mirror, I love you. And do it several times a day. And it really, really changes your perspective, because then you start putting meaning into it. Just the same thing. I'm good enough. I'm good enough. I love myself.
I'm into that. I've actually done that exercise. I love that. Like, there's one actually where you just sit down and you like stare at yourself. And someone told me that's like I gotta sit in front of a mirror and stare at myself. And she's like, "Yeah, I promise. You just stare at yourself. Look at your face." Like, and you know, it's funny if I've asked people like, "Have you ever just looked at yourself?" They're like, "What? You just like stare there? Just look at yourself?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you just look at yourself. Have you ever looked at yourself?" And it's funny because I've actually switched my alarm. I know this is like really personal, but I think it's interesting for any woman out there. So I have a Google phone and it has the Google Assistant routine. So like 3 times a day, my Google Assistant routine comes on and tells me kick-ass things. It tells me how awesome I am, and then I'm kicking ass, and it loves me. And I'm like, this is
Oh, awesome. That's great.
I have a go off at work, and they're like, did your phone just tell you it loves you? I said, yeah, it did. I am. It's like I am awesome. Yeah.
Oh, that is great. I love it.
So for anybody out there, if you have that ability, you know, your phone can tell you awesome things multiple times a day, and I do it. All right. So Michelle, I would love to know what is the greatest thing that you have learned along this journey.
I've learned that love and gratefulness is very powerful, and that with expressing it every single day, you can really change yourself. I feel like me personally, ever since I started planting those seeds and starting to really like express self-love and, you know, go back to the things that I used to do, like the self-care rituals, like my hair masks and my facials and stuff, because I had stopped all of that for a couple of years. And I noticed that my spirit has slowly like come back and I feel more like myself again.
Since Alexi, actually, I want to take what you said, Michelle, and add, since Alexi, you talked about, you brought the health aspect of it. You know, they say that when you talked about it too, and Christelle, you talked about when you do things that bring you joy, it actually stimulates your brain, and it stimulates different, and it releases different hormones into you that are supportive of brain health and just being a healthy person in general. And I can tell you and agree with you, Michelle, fully that when I don't do any of my self-care, like I don't meditate, like I have not meditated today, and my energy is like, you know, through the roof. It's just like I'm sitting in my car going, like, you guys commented on how hype I was. I haven't meditated today. So
you can tell the difference it makes, you know?
Oh yeah. Like, you know, you can tell the difference in your body too. I'm going to get a little bit woo before we get off here, but I worked with an energy healer. So for anybody who's out there who's ever thought about, I worked with an energy healer, and just to feel the difference, what the change in it when you really work on that part of yourself, that's really very instrumental in helping you propel forward and be able to stand in that power. So you guys, last question, tell everybody a little bit about how they can connect with you. For anybody who comes on the show, tell everybody a little bit how they can connect with you. Christelle, if you will, start us off first.
Yes, I will just give them the easiest and fastest way. Just go on my personal Facebook, which is Crystal Biga, and just DM me. We will get started with the chat and see if we can work together.
Awesome. Alexi?
I have a quiz on my app. Are you at risk for dementia? I highly suggest that you go and check it out. And my app is called the Whole Health app. And so if you have an Android phone, type in the word Whole Health, one word lowercase. If you have an iPhone, type in the Whole Health app, first letter capitalized. And it's a great tool. Share it with your friends. And there's answers on the quiz as well. So there's some steps you can take to have that healthy brain.
Awesome. That's fantastic. All right, Michelle.
So I have a website, michellemontero.us, and you can also find me on Facebook and Instagram at Michelle Montero Marketing.
Awesome. And you guys already know where to find me: Facebook, YouTube, podcast, iTunes. Links are in the comments. So you guys, please make sure you are sharing, subscribing. Thank you to anybody who comes on, catches us on the replay. Make sure to hit us with #replay. And please, you guys, stay tuned and continue to follow us as we go into TV, y'all. Like, oh my God, I'm so excited. Please continue to make sure you are paying attention for updates just on how that platform is going to look. I'm really excited to be broadcasting from Apple TV, Amazon TV, and Roku. So I told my son today, because we have a smart TV, I said, oh, pretty soon you're going to be able to watch Mom on there. So I was really excited. So you guys continue paying attention, continue supporting and subscribing, and just being along with this journey. And as always, continue bringing your voice to this table, because I think that this is how we create change. This is how we take that mess, whatever that, whatever that mess. And I don't say it in a bad way for anybody's on there. I don't want anybody to attach shame to what you've gone through, because if these ladies are anything, they are a testament that we all go through different things, but we can all continue to have these conversations and really have those through lines and those connecting points. So use that story to empower you to help somebody else along the process, and just join in and rise up together. So thank you, ladies, so much for being on here. I'm so appreciative of you guys for taking your time and bringing all your different messages. Sometimes, again, we all go through different things and we're different paths of life. So I always appreciate it when everybody can come on and just have a really touching, deep conversation with each other. So thank you, ladies, so much.
Okay, just
Thank you for having
Christelle,
me.
Ashley, and Michelle, we are enough.
Amen.
Yes, we are.
I'm giving y'all high fives. High fives. So, awesome, ladies. So thank you guys so much. Again, you guys, please keep following with us. Stay tuned. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you catch us on the replay, #replay, please reach out and connect with these ladies. All phenomenal. I am very honored to hold this space with them. So I'll see you guys on Thursday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for another amazing episode. Bye, y'all.
Bye.